What is good people? You are now listening to another episode of Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. I am your humble narrator, Danny Foxworth, and once again, we're joined by an extremely special guest. If you don't know, April is National Poetry Month, and shout out to the good brother Terrence Elmore. If you haven't heard that episode, make sure you check that out. And man, what can I say? I'm in the presence of a really a local celebrity. This man, teacher, poet, spoken word artist, and he's a man about town. Ladies and gentlemen, Walterboro, South Carolina's own Joey Tucker, aka Kilowatt Poet, aka Mr. Enlightenment. What's good, bro?
What's going on, man? Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, man. So, man, Walterboro, South Carolina. Now, when I think of Walterboro, South Carolina, I think of three things. First thing I think of is Dairyland.
Okay, yeah. You gotta
Second,
you gotta hit that up.
yeah, second thing I think of is actually the old radio station used to be right next to Dairyland, which is WALI. I don't know if it's still around or not. It was a 93.7. And then
Nah, man. Actually, now that you see that, Dairyland's a classic Walterboro spot. But when I go to town, I usually hit Duke's Barbecue. But
mm,
Dairyland is a classic spot.
yeah, you can't go wrong with either.
Yeah, man.
And
But
then
Dairyland definitely got me. I grew up on Dairyland, but I just don't go as much when I get to town. But when I
yeah,
go to town, I gotta hit the Duke's Barbecue. That's a go-to for me.
yes, sir. Man, because I remember my mom used to when she used to work remote, well, not work remote, but she used to go to like Bamberg and Barnwell, and she would always cut through Walterboro. And we would and whenever we leave from the hospital to make our way back to Monk's Corner, we would always stop at Dairyland, man. I'd bust that cheeseburger down. That thing was so
Man, you
good.
know what I mean? That's that you had to wait for it, but that was that real food, man. I remember
Yeah,
definitely going there definitely twice a month, definitely once a month going there, man.
yes, sir. And then the third thing I think of when I think Walterboro are the mighty Walterboro Bulldogs.
Oh man, you know what I'm saying? That football was a staple, man, especially if you're an older person. Right
Hmm.
now we're going through some transitions, man. Football is not at the forefront, I think, for a lot of the younger people, but yeah, man, some classic tales on the football field at Walterboro, man.
Yes, sir, man. The legendary coach Leroy Riley. So, what was it like playing for the Walterboro Bulldogs?
Man, it was something you just like you grew up going to the games and wanting to be on that field, man. Like that was a thing to do. I mean, small town football, small town sports was a big thing. It wasn't much else to do. Uh, and the tradition was there. You just wanted to grow up and be wearing that Walterboro on the back of your jersey, man.
Yes, sir. And you were also a member of the 97 state championship squad.
Yeah, man. Oh, the only time we went twice. Shout out to the team in '95, but we won it in '97. And I played against Albert Hainsworth, which he later made it to the NFL. I mean,
Hmm.
I definitely experienced what it was like playing against a D1 athlete, but we held it together. I can't say we. It's kind of like we try to contain them as much as possible, and then we ended up on top of that one.
And man, that year really stung for me because I'm a graduate of Berkeley High School, and we
Oh,
and we
yeah. We
lost to
ain't gonna talk
y'all in
about
the
that.
lower state championship.
That game was. I know y'all had to feel that one, man. Because actually, when I heard that play call, I was like, man, what is this? I didn't think it was gonna work. And it was like the last play of the game to win in that way. I know it had to be heartbreaking for y'all, and I was like, I couldn't believe it. I mean, we had the athletes, but that kind of like shows you how our offense was. Most people who are losing the game at the end, you're gonna throw it. You definitely gonna try to throw it. Maybe Hail
Hmm.
Mary or something. Not us. A reverse. And ain't too many people gonna call a reverse on the last play of the game and expect it to work.
Man, listen, I remember being at that game. Bro, we were up 21 nothing at the half, and that two-headed monster y'all had it running back with Antoine Neesmith and Keith Kelly. Boy, y'all walked us all the way down in the second half. I'll never forget it was 21 to 18. We had the ball in y'all's territory, but we were out of field goal range, and Coach Brown called a timeout and called a quarterback sneak. Got tackled for a loss and turned the ball over on downs. In the very first play of y'all's drive, I think y'all handed it to Neesmith and then pitched the reverse to Keith Kelly, and all we saw was the back of his jersey. I was
Yeah,
like,
man, that reverse is like one of our plays. Like we probably run it every game because our sweep was like that's the bread and butter. So you gonna over pursue because you trying to cut off that sweep,
yeah,
and then we come back around. I mean, man, it had to be a perfect timing, man. Because now that you think about it, that game gets overlooked because we think about the playoff run. We had a uh, playoff run that was pretty memorable for me too. I just don't think back to that game. Like I remember that last play, but when I you thinking about the details of that game, I don't remember that game as much as far as like how the game went. I just remember that last play. I know we were losing, and I remember hearing that play in the huddle, and I was like, man, like I'm gonna run the play, but I'm not
mm-hmm.
expecting too much out of it.
So where at on the line did you play?
I played right tackle at that time. Yep.
Okay, was that the
I
same
mean,
time y'all had the twin brothers at defensive end?
that was the year before me.
Okay, Dion and Rion Brown.
Yeah, so
I remember
man,
them.
we were just reloading. At that time, we were just uh playoffs was the minimum for us at that time, man, because we
Yeah,
had it where we were going to the playoffs every year, fighting for the region, man. It was so tough back then because Berkeley, Stratford, Somerville, everybody was in the same division.
yeah,
So we wouldn't really win the division, but the way it was, you know how the division was broken up. Now they got the 5A schools. They had the Big 16. So
they
we
sure
played
did.
against the bigger schools in the regular season, but then they split our playoffs up. So it was Division One, Division Two. So
Yep.
after we dealt with all of them during the season, and then we had to go, we had, I don't know if it was an easier route, but it's still good teams. But we didn't have to play Somerville in the playoffs. We didn't have to play the Wandos, Stratfords. They didn't have to play them. So we took our lumps during the season, and then we went to a different playoffs.
Yeah. So Albert Haynesworth, was that Hartsville or Marlboro County that y'all played in the state
Hartsville.
championship? Hartsville. That's I
Hartsville.
remember. Because were they
Crazy
one?
thing, man. That was my junior year.
Yeah.
Senior year, I was in the semifinals. So we were like one game away from going back to back. And we would have played against Marlboro County if we would have beat Ridgeview that year.
Okay. So I remember Hartsville. They used to always run that wing T offense.
Man, that game was crazy, man. Cause like you said, y'all were up on us. We were up on them 28-0 in the
Hmm.
halftime. And we won 28-27. That was yeah. So it was a tale of two halves, man. Like everything was going right for us in that first half, and then the second half we couldn't. I mean, maybe I don't think we crossed like midfield probably second half, but we just happened to. They actually they could have tied it and sent it to overtime, but they tried to go for two,
Mm-hmm.
and we shut it down.
Mm. So y'all eat that one up by the skin of your teeth, but hey, you got the title. Job got
Yeah,
done.
still got that ring. I mean, I don't wear it like that, but anytime we get together, I mean, because man, that's going on to 97. That's 28 years ago.
Yeah.
Still, we have never won another state championship, even though it's Carlton County now. We've never won another state championship. I can't say for sure that another sport hasn't won, but there's very few sports teams at Carlton County, Walterboro history that have won a state, and we're one of them.
Yeah, man. Y'all are in rarefied air. So Presbyterian. What made you choose Presbyterian College?
Man, I was just trying to play ball after high school. You know what I mean? I'm a 5'10" offensive tackle. So actually I had a coach of mine that had some connections at Presbyterian College. So he kind of talked me up. I didn't get money as far as football money to go up there, but they kind of put together a little, my grades were decent. So they put together some financial aid package for you. And then, I just wanted to play ball and I didn't want to give up that dream. And they moved me to defensive tackle. So I played defensive tackle for a couple years. And just so happened some injuries, people got in trouble. And then they needed some offensive linemen. They moved me back in that spring, going into basically my uh traditional junior year, but I did redshirt. I redshirted my freshman year. So going into my redshirt sophomore year, they needed some offensive linemen, so they moved me over in the spring. And like that's my natural position, even though it's different offense.
Hmm.
It felt like so natural to me. Like I just hit the ground running when they moved me back over there, and I got me a starting spot. So I finished up my career playing left guard. So I went from right tackle, running the I formation sweep 90% of the time to like a kind of a pro style offense, throwing the ball probably 75% of the time. So I went to the like almost a polar opposite type of offense in college.
Wow.
But it was fun, man. We put up a lot of points. Played with a guy named Todd Cunningham, one of the best,
I
I
remember
think,
him.
best quarterbacks in the state of South Carolina. I
He's from
definitely,
Irmo.
yep. Yeah, he was throwing that thing around out there.
Boy, that's a blast from the past. I remember always seeing his name in the high school sports report.
Oh, that
Man,
was
Todd
classic, man. The
Cunningham.
sports report every week. You
Yep.
get the sports report, seeing how they ranking your team, and I was lucky enough to be in the top 100 seniors. I said, all right, you know what I mean? That was a big thing back then.
So who was y'all's toughest opponent while you were Presbyterian?
Man, even though it was D2, man, there was a couple teams. Catawba College. We had a team we played against Carson Newman,
Hmm.
and then Carson Newman. Yeah, I think those two were the toughest. And then later on, another team called Tusculum started becoming better. And
Hmm.
then it wasn't it started getting a little more competitive, but when I first got there, it was Carson Newman, Catawba. Like that, those two teams were pretty much battling each other to win the division or the conference every year. So we beat them. We beat Carson Newman. We put ourselves in a chance to, we beat them one time and then we lose to somebody you shouldn't lose to. So it
Yeah.
was literally hard to win that division. But Carson Newman out of Tennessee and Catawba in North Carolina, like those are two of our biggest, toughest opponents. And then there's a team called Mars Hill in North Carolina too. Like they had some guys that played. I think they probably got a couple free agent NFL players, undrafted free agents that played against in college. So it was definitely some. Even though D2 ball ain't really sexy now, but I just like and now like if you can get a chance to continue your career, get a little bit of money towards your education. I mean, I'm not gonna tell anybody to like ignore a smaller school because everybody get caught up in D1. I mean, everybody in a D1 athlete. I mean, everybody got their dreams in NFL, but realistically, you just want to play a little bit more, keep
Right.
that dream going. Maybe you can go, arena ball at that time, maybe semi-pro, whatever. But I felt like I was good enough to play after high school, and I wanted to just keep it going.
Right on. And also, while you were Presbyterian, from what I understand, a creative writing class was really the thing that sparked your interest in trying your hand at poetry.
Yeah, so what happened? I'm kind of scrambling to take some elective courses, right? Because
Hmm.
I'm a elementary ed major, and then you had to have kind of like a minor, what do you call it, a concentration. So I picked English as my concentration, and then I was like, all right, man, I'm trying to pick a class where I don't have to read as much for.
Right.
So I picked creative writing fiction and creative writing poetry. So I took both of those, and I was like, I'm a hip hop guy. I feel like I'm pretty good with words, and I just like, you know what? Let me try this. So it was definitely different than I expected, but I kind of enjoyed it. Enjoyed writing poems, and like those poems that we had to do for a portfolio ended up becoming poems that I put out later on.
Wow. So once you do you remember your first poem that you wrote in that class?
I remember a few that I wrote. I can't remember the first one I wrote.
Okay.
I more remember actually my first memories of writing was just like writing raps, in school.
Yeah.
But I definitely wrote some poems about being an athlete. I wrote about being an athlete. I know I wrote a poem, kind of like looking out my window, my dorm room, like type stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, the atmosphere of a football game. So I definitely use a couple of those sports related themes, but I still use sports related themes in my poetry now. So, you kind of never lose that
Right on.
sports talk and just enjoying the aspects of competition. And I always kind of like connect sports to life anyway. So it kind of works where you can kind of throw in something clever. And like the sports people kind of, you'll get it. Like if you know it, you know what I'm talking about. Like
Yes,
everybody
sir.
might not catch it. Just being a writer and trying to be clever, you kind of like put those gems in there. And if you know, kind of like,
Yeah, it's like putting the medicine in the candy, so to speak.
yeah, yeah, man. 'Cause like some people, you hear that line, like it resonates with this person because like, oh, you know what? That memory from that sports game or connecting that comparison to that athlete, it's just like, oh yeah, yeah, like bring those memories back, just like me and you talking about the high school games.
Yeah. So once you got started getting your poetry muscles developed, um when did you when did you really begin to see that you had something special from a poetic
It
aspect?
was social media, really, man. Facebook in its early days of Facebook, where you could post. They call it a note. So I would post my poems in the note section, and people could read it, and then you comment on it, and then people were like giving me good feedback. So just networking with a friend of mine, a guy, because a friend through a friend of a friend, basically he was putting together poets' books. So you know what? I see you getting some good feedback on your poems. Have you ever thought about putting together like a collection of poems and try to see if you can make some money off of it? So I was like, you know what? He offered the opportunity. It was like a decent price where he would basically put your books together, kind of like a pamphlet almost. That's kind of what it was. It
Okay.
wasn't a paperback or hardback. It was kind of like a pamphlet that you would staple on the spine of it, almost like a church bulletin or
Yeah.
like a program where you go to church or like you had a graduation, like a little bit bigger than that, and you kind of staple the edges. And I just put them out there, man. Just word of mouth, man. People that was reading my stuff, just promoting through your friends and anybody who knows you, friends and family, and just I was able to sell a pretty good amount. So I was like, all right, well, why not try it out? Can't go wrong. I mean, end of the day, if anybody wants to buy a product of yours, it's a win. Somebody other than your family
Yep.
was interested enough to want to buy what you're doing or read what you're doing. So I was like, you know what? Hey, that's a cool feeling.
Man, and speaking of which, I see you parlay that into having your own merch and you go on your IG and there's just like so many people like in the low country that are wearing your gear. I was like, man, that is so dope,
Yeah,
man. So
man.
I know that feeling. I know that had to make you feel good seeing people out in the wild wearing your brand.
Man, it's starting to catch, man. It was like start with the friends and family. Just trial and error, man. Just seeing what other poets have been doing and seeing what works for other people. I decided, you know what, let me make a shirt. And then I made a few shirts, gave it out to the people that was rocking with me at the open mics and coming to see me and just the people that were around that I could throw the ideas off. And that was like my inner circle. So I gave all of them shirts. And then more and more people, you know what, let me try to sell a few. Because people still tell me like the shirts that I made were just conversation starters. Like people like, oh, what's that shirt about? And now it's starting to be like, oh, you know Joey, right? Oh yeah, because they recognize that from all the promotion that I'm doing. So
Right.
people starting to like, even if you don't know me, like, oh, somebody came up to me and they recognize your shirt. So I was like, yeah, that's cool. And then I'm bugging people. It's a gray area between uh self promotion and being annoying, spamming. So I'm definitely gonna be teetering tottering between that. But it's like, hey, would you mind taking a picture with the shirt? So people started doing that, and then I just kind of like saved my own gallery of uh videos and pictures, and I just start keep cycling through, man, putting them out there, sharing them on my story, sharing them on my page, and people see somebody wearing it. Stickers too. I'm putting stickers out there. People taking pictures of the stickers. People pick a picture of somebody they saw wearing my shirt. So yeah, man, it's kind of full circle. I always had that the inner battle is like I don't want the T-shirt to become bigger than the poetry because
Hmm.
I say I'm not a T-shirt guy. I'm a poetry guy that sells T-shirts. So I don't want the T, even though I think it's the best thing about merch is having something that is cool enough that if people don't even know what it's about, they still like it. But I don't want you to forget what it's about.
Right.
So you got the slogan that's cool or that you like, but at the same time, I want it to lead back to the social media. I want it to lead to the Spotify, Apple Music. And like hopefully I'm dropping the breadcrumbs to bring it back to the poetry. Or they want to find out more about the poetry just because of the shirt.
And so keeping the poetry theme going, what was your first poetry reading?
My first poetry reading, I met a guy I was just hearing about poetry, kind of friend of a friend. And this guy was doing his show. His name is Serious Six. His name is Tony Middleton, actually. Tony
Okay.
Middleton. He went to Stratford High School. I met him just going out and about.
Okay.
And then I found out he did poetry. And then he had a poetry night called Serious Sundays. And then I went out there. That was probably 2010. My first open mic, 2010. Right now, I like to read it from memory. But at that point, I was reading it off paper, which I'm not knocking people that do it. I'll do it from time to time, just depending on, you know, kind of reading the room, like what's the situation, reading poetry from paper. That's kind of what we do. So it's like the vocabulary of a poetry event. Some people say poetry slam. That's the common name for spoken word poetry. Slam part is just the competition. Like I'm going head to head with other people and they're scoring it. So when you hear poetry slam, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a slam. That's like the common word for it. So basically, you got poetry readings, which is more like the classical poetry, the poetry that you read probably in high school. Not as much emotion to it. The delivery is more calm, I'd say. So you're basically reading from your paper, maybe reading from your book. The poetry, spoken word, slam poetry, as they call it, it's a little more performance in hand, like performance. Like I'm saying it. I'm a little more aggressive with it. I'm putting that I'm kind of like you see I move. When I move, I move with the words. Like, you're talking with your hands. Like that's the kind of poetry that I do. And when I first started, I was more reading it off paper and I realized I can deliver it better if I memorize it. Because you kind of stuck on looking at the paper. You're really not connecting with the crowd. So I realized, you know what? I want to memorize these poems so I'm able to give it to the people the way I want to give it to them.
So after you get through reciting your poems, normally how do you feel afterwards?
Man, I'm always feeling like early on, I was like, I wasn't getting that big reaction that I wanted. And I would see that other poets got that big reaction. So I realized my poetry wasn't, I don't know. I guess you gotta be a fan of words because I realize that some poetry gets the people. It's almost like how music is now. The stuff that's on the radio might not be the best song, might not be the best artist, but they got something that is a little more catchy, maybe a little more controversial. So I would leave the stage feeling like, it didn't hit like I wanted to. So, but then I realized like there was a person or two in the crowd that would come up to me at the end and say they enjoyed it. So, I mean, I'm always feeling like you kind of, as an artist, you always your worst critic. So I always felt like, like, what about this poet? What about that poem that got the crowd into it? And then I was like, you know what? I didn't necessarily write it for the crowd's reaction. I think this is a good poem. And I started realizing certain poems are gonna touch the audience more than others. So it's kind of like you got to figure it out. Like there's certain poems or certain poems that you might just you wrote it. I mean, it was good, but it might not get the crowd into it. It's a good poem. People would enjoy reading it. Some poems like, all right, you know what? This one is probably better if I put it out there and let you read it. This poem is better for the crowd. It's got more catchy lines, more feeling when I deliver it. So that's kind of like the catch 22 of which poem should I go with? Like if I'm only doing one poem and I want to get the crowd's attention, I want to have them remember that I was on the mic that night. I was like, all right, which poem do I want to go with? So that's the hard part, man. And poetry, it's a niche. Like everybody's not into it, which I think people, if you give it a chance, poetry, we always kind of like we're thinking of Shakespeare stuff that we read in high school or college
Right.
that you didn't understand it. The teacher had to sit there and break it down for you. I want to write poetry that's surface level. You can still get it, but there's still deeper meaning if you want to go. Like I said, surface level is cool. But if you want to dig into it, I got something for you too. So I find like you can get into the poetry, some people surface levels, like them entendres and things like that, the way you write, the comparing other things. I don't want to ever confuse you though. I want you to know what it was about. Now, is there other kind of little hidden gems in there that you can kind of like, oh, you know what? Certain people in the poetry crowd, you might, hear
Yeah.
snap, or something like that. People, certain people felt different parts of it. They might have went wild over this line right here, but then this person over here reacted to that line later on. So everybody's there and they're getting their own thing. And a lot of poems kind of like, you know what, I was going through something similar. So they kind of connected to it. So that's a good thing about poetry. There's no one way to do it. I love where you go to an open mic and nobody sounds alike. That's what I love. It's not music nowadays, like you know what people want to hear, you know the trends. So you try to make music that follows that kind of blueprint. Poetry, you can hear so many different stories, so many different ways to present it. I love poetry and then like, I mean, there's certain rules, but I've always been like, write what you feel, write it how you want to. There's no limit to how long it is. And I mean, there's technical aspects to it, but I was like, I ended this line because it felt good right here. I started a new stanza because it felt good right here. And I ended it right here because it felt like a good ending to me. So there's no one way to do it. That's what I love about poetry.
And you know what? That makes me think of a line that I heard in a Chuck D interview a while ago, and it always stuck out with me. And it was in regards to structure in rap songs. He was like, "Why does everything have to be a hot 16 bars?" He was like, "Why can't it be a hot 17 bars, or why can't it be a hot 13 and a half bars?" And just hearing that parallel, it like you don't have to really doesn't have to be any kind of convention to your structure of how you create your poems. And I love that you can go down whichever avenue you want to. And like you said, somebody out there is going to get something out of it.
Yep, yep.
And I love that. So Thomas Edison, what was it about him that really drew you, it really like made you add light as a theme to a lot of your poetry?
Well, when I was just trying to come up with a poetry name, I came up with Mr. Enlightenment because it goes back to my teaching background. Enlighten, enlightenment is the basically process of getting information. And then I started thinking like when you get an idea, it's called a light bulb moment. You know, that light
Hmm.
bulb goes off on top of your head. And I was like, who is credited? And you can get into history, and I've been corrected a lot over the years. We've always been told Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, even though that's not completely true. So I went with Thomas Edison as my homeboy because he's the light bulb person. And then I was like kind of tying it all together. The light bulb moment, Thomas Edison is my homeboy. I'm spreading the light just like he was doing it.
Right on. So is there a difference between Mr. Enlightenment and Joey Tucker?
Joey Tucker's more reserved. I'm not a center of attention type of guy, which I do like to go out and socialize, but I'm gonna be in my own, you're gonna see me on to the side chilling, talking to people. I do
Yeah,
mingle, but I'm never gonna be the guy that's like all the attention on me. But when I'm on stage, my persona is a little bit bigger. Like I want to command the crowd then.
got you.
So that's a little bit of the difference between me and my poetry. Like I'm all like, hey, I want you to shut it down. Everything stop. 'Cause when you start hearing me, because sometimes at a poetry show, people kind of go through the motions. You wanna pay attention to everybody doing their art, but then there's certain poets that even if you're like paying attention to something else, and then that person gets on the mic, and then it just kind of like, you know what? Let me pay a little more attention to what he's talking about or what she's talking about. So that's what I definitely want through my delivery. I want that. You know what? I wasn't really paying attention, but that line kind of made me stop what I was doing. Let me hear a little bit more from what this person's talking about.
Man, and I can only imagine how good that makes you feel hearing that kind of feedback from the people in the audience after your recitation of your poem.
Yeah, man, that's like scoring a touchdown, man. It's
I
like
love it.
it's like that hitting the game winning shot, man. You want it to you want it to connect, man. At the end of the day, people do it for the love, but you be lying to yourself if you said you didn't want people to like it. Now, I'm okay if you're not liking it, but at the end of the day, you were hoping that the people liked it. So it's not the end all be all, but it does kind of feel gratifying when people enjoy your work.
Yes, sir. Then let's talk about the education part of Mr. Joey Tucker. So what got you into elementary education?
Man, it was just some long summer days with my dad, man. I was doing some landscaping. I grew up landscaping on the summertime. and just having conversations with my dad. He had basically people that he worked for that were teachers, and he kind of said, kind of like pitched it to me like, you know what, you don't want to do what I've been doing. You don't want to have this hard, you don't want to have this back-breaking manual labor type of work that I'm doing. So you might want to check out this, old school black dad. He coming in with the, you know what, you can retire from this. You can have good benefits. So he came at me from that angle. And I was thinking, you know what? I'm a pretty creative guy. And what I learned in teaching is it's almost like poetry. There's no one way to teach a concept. So what I loved when I first started teaching, you say, all right, we're doing decimals. I'm a reading teacher. Let's say we're doing main idea. We're doing uh, figurative language. As long as you teach the kids this concept, it doesn't matter how you got there, is they know it. So this is one of the negatives about teaching now to me, is they want everybody to be clones, which I don't think it should be like that. I feel like every teacher is unique. They have their own touch. Like what works for you might not work for me, and that's good. That's okay. So you teach, like, and you kind of go to other teachers like, you know what, your kids did pretty well on this concept. How did you teach them? Like what words did you use? And I feel like that's good because no kids, all kids are not the same, and all people are not the same. So I feel like the uniqueness of teachers is sometimes not encouraged these days because I feel like we are just worried about test scores. Test scores, I mean, it does, you have to kind of justify the learning, but I don't think it's the end all be all, which is what they kind of want it to be because it's one day. You know how it was when whatever it was called back then when you were taking standardized tests at the end of the school year, you had to take one, whatever it was called. And think about you as a 9 or 10-year-old kid. You didn't understand the magnitude of this test. You just knew
Right.
you had to take it. So my career of my effectiveness is measured by a 9 or 10-year-old kid who may not have had enough sleep, who may not have had a good breakfast this morning, may have gotten in trouble arguing with his parent, his or her parent. They don't understand that this test is going to help measure their school year. We just know we got to take this test and we don't want to take it. So that's the hard part about education. You know, we can it's almost like the ring aspect of sports. You're measuring my career by the rings. I could be a Hall of Fame worthy player. Maybe my numbers don't say it, but my impact says it.
Mm.
Same thing with teaching because, from year to year, you got some high performing students and maybe you don't. So I think that's a lot of the reason why teaching is becoming a high turnover is, you know, it's a lot of pressure to, well, most jobs, when you get your evaluation, you can kind of dictate how well or how unsuccessful you work. Teaching has so many moving parts. Like, I need the parent on the same page. I need the kid on the same page as I am. Like, I can be doing all of this during the day, and if that parent is not supporting that learning at home, if the student is not motivated, then we pull it. We're pulling in different angles. Like we're not all pulling together. So that's the difficult part about teaching. I mean, the art of teaching is great. Once you can teach a lesson and those people in front of you, they're starting to give you the answer that I was like, you're giving me the answer that I expected you to give me. So like sometimes you hear a lot of answers that really had no business being said, but that time when you call on this kid and they gave you the answer that you wanted them to give you and they kind of put it together the way you told them to put it together, and it's like, oh man, that's like calling a play and they ran it to perfection. Like everybody blocked, the receiver ran the route, and the running back picked up the blitz, and and we just that perfect play that maybe we were messing up all week, and in that one particular time, it all worked out.
The student had the light bulb moment.
Yes, for sure.
And so what's some of the more rewarding things that being a teacher has brought you?
Man, I'm a creature of habit anyway, but I've been at my school for 20 years, my whole career. So when I start seeing the siblings come through, that is like, oh, you know what? They told their little brother or sister about me. Or that, yeah, you want to be in his class. And then I see them as an adult come back, which I'm kind of tapping into my former students now, where I get them to come back and read to my class. And I can tell the class now, like, this kid was in my class, is sitting in the same spot you are, and like it's full circle for me.
That's so dope.
Yeah, man. I'm the
Man,
OG
that's
now, man. I was a young teacher, and now I'm like, man, all the gray hair, gray hair putting a little bit of more years on me, but yeah, 20 years, man, 20 years teaching.
man, shout out to you, man, because that's not an easy job.
Oh man, that's a grind.
Yeah. And for you to do it for 20 years, man, again, hats off to you for real.
Hey, when you see a teacher in the street, man, we deserve that summer, man. Don't be criticizing when our summers off. We deserve that.
There you go. So now I'm going to get into the 5 question segment. So the first and last question are the same question I ask every guest I have on here. Questions 2 through 4 are 100% random. So question number 1, what would Joey's go-to school lunch items?
Man, I wasn't even a bring my lunch to school person, but that pizza on Friday always hit. That square pizza, man, couldn't
Mm,
wait for it.
Can't go wrong with that. Question number 2, what rap album got the most burn from you in high school?
Man, you couldn't tell me I wasn't a New York subway riding guy, man, because I grew up in Walterboro, but the source was my Bible.
Hey, same here.
I had to know the newest releases, man. Uh, I can't say what had the most, but I was definitely buying from that No Limit tree. I was buying from that
Yep.
Wu-Tang tree. And then if the source said it was three mics or more, I had to check it out.
You are speaking my language, man. Golly, I miss cracking open that new issue of the source every month and seeing the mic ratings and then seeing who got rhyme of the month for that month.
Yeah, the hip hop quotable.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Boy, there was some good times. So which let's say what's your favorite Wu-Tang album?
Wu-Tang forever.
Hey, man, that was a moment. That was a moment. I
And I
remember
had me a little Wu-Tang charm and all. Like I had me a chain with a Wu-Tang charm on it.
and I remember they had a midnight sale at Cat's Music in Somerville, and me and my sister went there. And I think mom actually rode with us too because I had just got my license. And I remember just camping out. And shout out to her, man. She trooped it out with us, and we went and got the double CD and jammed it the
Man,
whole way home.
I mean, it's so different now because what did albums come out on Tuesday? I feel like albums came out on Tuesday back
Yep,
then,
they did.
and now they moved into Friday, and it was like you wanted to go and you wanted to make that purchase, open it up. As I'm listening to the song, I'm looking through the credits, uh, because we didn't have social media and it was harder to collab. I was so interested in like so and so featuring so and so. I'm like, oh man, especially when Wu Tang or when the South artists started working with the North artists.
Yeah.
Because what blew my mind was when I heard Skewed on the Barbie for the first time,
Yes.
and it was Wu Tang or like Raekwon was on the track with Outkast. I was like, man, that was that made my day right there when I saw that
Me
collab
too.
between those two.
So what was your favorite No Limit album?
Oh man, No Limit, man. my favorite No Limit artist, I believe, Mystical and Fiend, like
Yeah.
those two. The Fiend album that still sounds good today. Um, Street Life. I know
Hmm.
there's one in every family was like I think the one that people talk about the most,
Yeah.
but Street Life, that is one of my favorite ones. And I'll listen to it like at least once a year. I'll go back and listen to Fiend Street
Yeah.
Life. And even though Silk was known to not be on beat, that Charge It to the Game album was good.
Yeah. That boy, I mean, he kicked the door down on that first track. That the posse cut.
Oh man, you that there was certain things every No Limit you want to hear the tank song,
Yep.
whatever the tank song was. And just like when 3-6, they had their posse song. Like I want to
Hmm.
hear that one every release.
So what's your favorite Wu-Tang solo artist album?
Purple Tape.
There you go. Can't go wrong with that. Man. Question number three. As far as foods go, what are your non-negotiables? Like what's the foods that you're absolutely saying no to?
Man, I guess I don't know. I'm pretty basic when it comes to food,
Okay.
but sushi is just not, I have not, sushi never hit for me. Like I
Okay.
might be kind of like, I'm not open-minded as much, but I'm just like, my friends like sushi, go and get it. I was like, man, I don't know about this, man. So sushi never really just got me into it. I haven't probably given it a good enough chance, but people's like, oh, let's go get some sushi. Now I'm gonna get the hibachi. I don't really mess with the sushi though.
Hey, fair enough. Question number four.
And
What's
pause on that too.
yeah.
Even though from the low country, oysters. I don't do oysters, man. I'm just not big. I know oyster roasts are a big social scene, but I never really got into oysters either.
Okay, what was it about the oysters that you don't like?
First of all, man, I'm a lazy eater, I think. So if I gotta do all of this just to get that little bit of meat out of it, it's not even worth it for me, man. And then you gotta put gloves on and crack it open and do all
Yeah.
that. And they hold up the little piece of meat like that. I was like, nah, I'm good, man.
And I will tear some oysters down at an oyster roast, but I feel like that's the way you feel about oysters is the way I feel about cracking open crab legs. It's too much work,
Yeah, too much work.
even
Now
though there's more meat with
I'll
the
eat it
crab
for
leg.
sure. Like if it's crab salad, something like that,
Hmm.
or shrimp where it's like peel it and eat it. But if I gotta do all of this preparation, I feel like the work you put into it doesn't equal the amount of food that results in it. I think
Hmm.
it's just you just I think it's just a sport, man. Like cracking open some crab legs and crawfish and oysters. I feel like people just good at it and they just like boom, boom, they knocking. I mean, they just almost like an octopus, like they got all these arms, they cracking them open and just going through them. Like you see these all you can eat oysters events,
Hmm.
they out there rocking them oysters, man. I was like,
Yeah,
nah, it's not me, man.
I feel you. Question number four. What's the first concert you attended?
Dude, like so I have been as much as I'm a music guy, I really haven't until recently started doing concerts. And the concert that I wish I would have went to was the Hard Knock Life concert, but it was kind of a hike because I was in Walterboro, so to
Yeah.
come to the Coliseum. I don't know if it was on a weekend or not, but that I don't think I had a ride or somebody who would take me at that point. I know I had to be in high school in that during that time, so I couldn't get up here as easily. Now if I grew up Somerville, Mons Corner, or something like that, it's not as far of a ride.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I wish I could have went to that concert. But recently I've been going to a lot because I've been tapping into the music hall, music farm, stuff like
Hmm.
that. I think when I moved to Charleston, my first concert that I was like, you know what, I went to that one. Um, I think Nas came to the music farm.
Really?
Yeah, I went to that one. And crazy thing, now that I look back at it, Jay Electronica opened up for him. I think it was Jay Electronica, and it might have been Talib, and then Nas was like the headliner.
No way.
Yeah, that had to
I
have
did
been
not
like
know that.
20, had to be like maybe around 2010 or something like that.
Okay,
I
man,
think
I
it
did
was
not
probably
know.
like I forgot what Nas album it was, but I just know like I saw a Music Farm, Nas was coming to Charleston. And you know you can go to the Music Farm for relatively cheap.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? Let me go. And then probably my favorite concert of all time, because I'm a Jay-Z guy. When Jay-Z was supposedly on his last tour, I caught him in Charlotte.
Mm,
That was a that was a good time because he had the band, he was going through the hits. Man, that was
hmm.
my favorite concert I've been to.
Dope, dope. And then the last question. What's the last thing that really made you laugh?
Man, I'll be scrolling all the time, man. It's so these videos, it's a video actually, Drewski, you follow
Yeah.
Drewski, you know Drewski. So Drewski had this video he just made, and it was like um basically the people that make these kids shows, and then he was like doing a letter song, and then they cut, and then he was like doing some drugs in the back. Or he was just like, it's like these people that do these kids shows, when they turn the cameras off, they're just some regular people, and
Yeah.
usually they're not people that's good people. At the end of the day, like they get in, like think about the people that was in these shows that you grew up looking at. They were doing a bunch of dirt that we didn't know about, and it came out later on.
Yeah.
But to us, like they were these. Just for example, Pee Wee Herman, for example, like he had all that controversy
Oh,
back
yeah.
then. But to
Yeah.
us, it was like this is the guy who just doing stuff for kids. But when the camera cut off, he's a totally different person.
Yeah. He was on some other type of time.
Right. And just like think about Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers is definitely not that same guy that we thought we were watching as a kid.
Right. Then actually this would be a question 5B. When's the most what's the last time that you really tapped in with your inner child?
Man, fifth grade recess, man, daily. Fifth grade recess. I'm out there watching the kids play basketball. I'm usually kind of like a referee because it can get a little heated out there.
Yeah.
And I play in the kickball league.
I love it. There you go, man. Staying active and keeping in tune with the inner child. I cannot stress that enough. You got to do it.
My body breaking down now, man. Like I got hurt this season actually, so I'm still kind of trying to get back into it.
I hear you. So anything you want to plug and promote, the floor is all yours.
Man, Mr. Enlightenment, the Kilowatt Poet. I'm all over social media at Kilowatt Poet. I got some poetry albums. I'm on Spotify, Apple Music. You can look up Mr. Enlightenment. Um, I got a show I'm working on. I got a series of pop-up poetry shows called The Light Show. And I just confirmed the date, May 16th. We're gonna be at Hobcob Brewery
All right.
in Mount Pleasant. So I'm getting the flyers together and setting up the lineup, and it's gonna be a good show. If you've never been to a poetry show, you might want to check it out.
Yes, sir. And man, thank you so much for being a guest on here, man. I greatly enjoyed this, man.
Yeah, man, appreciate you, man. I know I definitely have some mutual friends, and I was like, hey, let me reach out because I like the conversation. I'm a social guy. I don't mind chatting. Feels like we kind of grew up in the same era, so I definitely think we
Yeah.
can talk, keep this going for a long amount of time. But yeah, man, appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. And I'll most definitely have you back, man.
Yeah, because you got a couple of different ones, right? You got a couple of
Yeah.
different like I said, man, you busy guy, man.
Yeah, man. So thank y'all for listening. Make sure you like, download, and subscribe to Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find me at Danny Foxworth 843. There you can find all the videos for all the episodes of this podcast, as well as my baseball podcast at The Plate with Danny Foxworth, my candle podcast, The Wicked Good Time with Danny Foxworth, and Growing Up Low Country with Liz and Danny, which I'm dropping a new episode very, very soon. And for Joey and myself, this has been another episode of Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. And until next time, y'all be good. Peace.